Just the time I feel that I've been caught in the mire of self. Just the time I feel my mind's been bought by worldly wealth. That's when the breeze begins to I know the Spirit's call, and all my worldly wanderings just melt into His love. Oh, I want to know You more. Deep within my soul I want to know You. Oh, I want to know You, to feel Your heart and know Your mind. Looking in Your eyes stirs up within me cries that say, I want to know You more. Oh, I want to know You more. Oh, I want to know You more. When my daily deeds ordinarily lose life and song, my heart begins to bleed. Sensitivity to Him is gone. I've run the race, I've set my pace, and face a shattered soul. But the gentle arms of Jesus warm my hungering to behold. Oh, I want to know You more. Deep within my soul I want to know You. Oh, I want to know You, to feel Your heart and know Your mind. Looking in Your eyes stirs up within me cries that say, I want to know You more. Oh, I want to know You more. Oh, I want to know You more. servant, humble and meek. Lord, let me lift up those who are weak, and may the prayer of my heart always be, make me a servant, make me a servant, make me a servant today. Make me a servant, humble and meek. Lord, let me lift up those who are weak, and may the prayer of my heart always be, make me a servant, make me a servant, make me a servant today. Make me a servant, humble and meek. Lord, let me lift up those who are weak, and may the prayer of my heart always be, make me a servant, make me a servant, make me a servant today. Make me a servant, make me a servant, make me a servant today. Lord, make me like you. Please make me like you. You are a servant. Make me one too. Oh Lord, I am willing. Do what you must do to make me like you, Lord. Just make me like you. Lord, make me like you. Please make me like you. You are a servant. Make me one too. Oh Lord, I am willing. Do what you must do to make me like you, Lord. Make me like you. Make me like you, Lord. Just make me like you. And may the prayer of my heart always be, make me a servant, make me like you, Lord, and make me a servant today.
Hello, welcome back. I hope this is welcome back. Thank you for joining us for another time, opening up the Word of God and trying to glean what we can from it. I'm in the middle of a series now that I'm calling Jesus Stories, and I'm breaking Jesus's ministry or his life into 4 phases. And I started a couple of weeks ago with before it was his time, basically before the time, quote unquote, his time, and the preparation that Jesus went through, and how when he was 12 years old, he was already about his father's business, but he had to go back home with his parents and submit to them. And we didn't hear about him again until he was 30 years old, getting ready to be baptized. And that whole first 30 years of his life, and really in particular, from the time he was 12, when he was old enough to recognize what he was about and who he was about and what he was here for, but to submit that to leadership and to wait until it was time for him to launch his ministry. And it wouldn't be until he was 30 years old before it was actually his time. So that was first week, and then the second week was talking about how that ministry actually started and how it was launched, and what he was able to do and accomplish, and what his attitude and what the purpose was of his time in ministry, and how much it grew, and how his name grew, his notoriety grew, and people were following him, and his ministry obviously was bigger in impact than any of us ever. In all of mankind, no one did what Jesus did in their whole lives than he did in 3. That's the honest truth. Like, the impact of those 3 years was bigger than any man ever. But it was submitted to God's kingdom and not his own. And so this week we're going to talk about the when his life was coming to the end stage of his life. And it was a short life. He died when he was 33 years old. So it was a very short, his ministry was short, but his life was short. So he spent more time preparing for what he was going to do than actually doing it. Like, from the time he turned the water into wine to when he died was 3 years. So it wasn't a long period of time, but my goodness, the impact of it. And we'll talk about the impact next week. But this, I want to talk about, how it ended, how his time ended. And we're going to go to John chapter 18 today. And we're going to start where it says Jesus was arrested. And there's a little bit in here that I think is significant for us to take into our own lives, that we can learn from. So let me start. Chapter 1 of John 18. Verse 1. When he had finished praying, Jesus left with his disciples and crossed the Kidron Valley. On the other side there was a garden, and he and his disciples went into it. Now Judas, who betrayed him, knew the place, because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from the chief priests and the Pharisees. They were carrying torches, lanterns, and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him, went out and asked them, "Who is it you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they replied. "I am he," Jesus said. And Judas the traitor was standing there with them. When Jesus said, "I am he," they drew back and fell to the ground. Again he asked them, "Who is it you want?" "Jesus of Nazareth," they said. Jesus answered, "I told you that I am he. If you are looking for me, then let these men go." This happened so that the words he had spoken would be fulfilled. "I have not lost one of those you gave me." Then Simon Peter, who had a sword, drew it and struck the high priest's servant, cutting off his right ear. The servant's name was Malchus. Jesus commanded Peter, "Put your sword away. Shall I not drink the cup the Father has given me?" Then the detachment of soldiers with its commander and the Jewish officials arrested Jesus. They bound him and brought him first to Annas, who was the father-in-law of Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was the one who had advised the Jewish leaders that it would be good if one man died for the people. So what I take from this whole exchange of the people that came to arrest Jesus is a point that I made last week, is that Jesus was submitted to this mission. He was obedient to this mission. This mission meant for him to die. That was part of the plan all along, to be a sacrifice for the sin of man that started back in the Garden of Eden with Adam and Eve. So this part of the mission had to happen for the prophecy to be fulfilled, for mankind to be redeemed. He couldn't do any of this and leave out this part and accomplish the mission. No matter how great he was, no matter how many great things he did, no matter how many people he healed and fed and all of the different things, none of it would matter if he was not submitted to this part of the process. This part of the process was going to be for him to suffer and die. So, but Jesus, obviously, he's God, he's Son of God, but he's also Son of Man. But he had to submit to this. Jesus was in control because God is in control, and he's God. He is God. He's part of the Trinity, like Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. So he had authority all along. But for this to happen, he had to become a man, and then he had to submit to this part of the mission. But I love that you can see Jesus's his royalty shining through. You know, it's like a king. Like, I don't know if any of you have ever seen the movie way back in the day. It's called Coming to America by Eddie Murphy. How he wanted to go to America and nobody know that he was royalty, and that he wanted to be normal and blend in and all of this stuff and live this life so he could find love without it being attached to his position and all of that stuff. But every now and then somebody would recognize him, and then they would just start bowing down or putting rose petals at his feet or whatever. But his true identity would shine through, and he would try to fix it. No, stop it. Don't do that. Don't bow to me. All that. But like in this exchange with Jesus, his royalty and his position kept shining through, and he would kind of push it back down. Like when they came to him and he said, "Who are you looking for?" And they said, "We're looking for Jesus of Nazareth." And he says, "I am he." And when he said, "I am he," I don't really know how to explain it. I wish they would make a movie about this part. But they drew back and fell to the ground. Like the power of "I am he," I am, was so powerful that they fell down. Judas and all of the officials and everything, Judas fell down. And Jesus just waited there for them to get up. Then he asked them again, "Who are you looking for?" "We're looking for Jesus." "Okay. If you're looking for Jesus, I am he, but you need to let all of them go." So he is like negotiating from a position of strength for this whole exchange. Never was he the feeble Jesus that like, "Oh gosh, please don't hurt me. Okay, I'll go." No, none of that. He was working as a king. Like, I'm he, and then they all fall down, and he waits for them to get back up, and then he says, "Let all of my people go." And then Peter takes a sword and cuts off one of the main officials' ears. Again, Jesus is in complete control. Dude, stop. No one freaks out. No one starts attacking or whatever when this happens. They all sit there and wait. And Jesus picks up the ear and puts it back on and says, "Let them go. I'll go with you." So he was in charge the whole time. Even at the end, even when he's on his way to the cross, he went to the cross because he decided he was going to submit and go. No one could make him. He could have called down angels from heaven, but he was obedient to this part of the process. And I love him for it. I love that he didn't have to, but he did it anyways. My goodness, what can that teach us? What can we learn from that? That sometimes, like, we just have to do what we know we have to do, even if we don't want to. We can submit to it and do it. And Jesus, he exemplified this better than anyone in this situation. And this part of the process I would call transition. I've told this story many times, and some of you that are listening to this, you've probably heard this story multiple times. But I want you to be hanging there with me, because a lot of my stories, people that have been walking with me and following me or part of my church or anything like that for many years, they've heard some of these stories already. But something cool's happened in the last few months where it's gone from me getting 10, 15 views whenever I post something like this to now there's several hundred every time. So that means that there's more people that are watching this, or people that are hearing me for the first time, or a lot of you that are seeing me on these different platforms, like Facebook in particular. You're now being reintroduced to me as a preacher. And so this is your first experience with hearing me in this space and not as a drummer and a musician. And so because of that, I'm going to tell some of my analogies and stories over again now that there's different groups of people hearing it for the first time. So hang with me in there. In this part, it's called transition, and I think it illustrates Jesus going at the end, transitioning into this next phase of life and history for all of us. But I have a story about transition, and it's from my wife, me and my wife Katie. We have a now 12-year-old daughter, Violet, and when Violet was born, it was a tricky part of the pregnancy because Katie started losing her water or fluids early, and so we had to induce labor. And I can verify this story now because when me and Katie were in Nashville, we were with some of our friends that were actually there for this process. And so we were able to verify some of the stories that I've told about this over the years. But Katie, my wife, had a birth plan that said that she was not supposed to be given any drugs, that she was going to do this naturally, and no epidural or none of that stuff. And I've been saying for years that it was an 8-page birth plan. But now I can verify through some verification from Katie's friend, and who was the doula, that it was 8 pages of the one document to give to 8 different people in the hospital. So every person we came in contact with in the hospital got a page of this birth plan saying, don't give me any drugs. So that was strict instructions that all of us knew. And so we get into labor after having to induce labor. And finally, after, I don't know, was it 20 hours or something crazy, that she finally just says, give me the drugs. Then me and her friend, Becca is her name, Rebecca, look at each other like, this isn't the plan. And she's like, no, I want the drugs now. And we didn't even know what to do. But so she got the drugs and everything went on. And then ultimately it kind of prolonged the pregnancy. But later we find out that she probably could have started pushing at that point. But because she asked for the drugs, it numbed her and she didn't feel anything. And so it prolonged it for several hours. And then when she finally had Violet, she couldn't feel anything because she'd been numbed. And it was just kind of a big mess. But Violet got here and we got through it. So sometime after, I asked my wife, I said, why did you compromise your principles like that? Why did you tap out at that after being so set on doing this one way? What was it that made you just throw all of that away. And she said something I'll never forget. She said, if somebody would have said the word transition, I would have known it wasn't time to tap out. It was time to push. If I would have understood that I was feeling so much pain and it was so tense and so hard, if I would have understood that word transition, that's the time in a pregnancy when women feel like they're dying. It's so painful. I don't think men know, I don't know that we have experienced anything like it. But that level of pain, women understand with transition, that means you're right on the edge of new life. It gets that difficult right at the end as you're crossing into this new season with this birth, with this new life coming. So she said, if I would have known that I was in transition, I would have understood that it wasn't time to give up, it was time to push. And that, I've preached that for many years, many different situations in life. When it gets the most difficult, a lot of times it's because you're right there at the edge of breakthrough. You're right there at the edge of going into this new season of new life and new things that God has for you. But most of the time when you're coming out of one season in life and going into this new season, you're met with this time of transition where the walls seem to close in, the opportunities seem to dry up, things start to go wrong, and it's dark and it's hard. And you feel like giving up. You feel like numbing the pain. You feel like doing something so you don't have to feel it. Like my wife tried to get the epidural so she wouldn't have to feel the pain. What she didn't realize is she wouldn't even let the nurses test her to see how far that she was in dilating. She wouldn't. She was in so much pain, she wouldn't even let them try. She just wanted the drug. She just wanted to numb the pain because it hurt too much. But now we know that if she would have let them take, they would have said, you're 10 centimeters dilated, it's time to push. And she would have had the baby a few minutes later instead of 12 hours later, and not feeling it, and the baby coming and her not being able to feel it and enjoy that moment because she was so numb to the pain that it diminished the new life that came. It diminished the new season because she had numbed herself out. And that's so true of so many times in our lives. When we're going out of one season into the next and it gets difficult, that we want to just tap out. We want to numb the pain. That could be a bottle, that can be a pill, that can be something you snort, that can be something you visit on www. You fill in the blank, that you want to numb the pain. You don't want to feel it because it's so difficult. But a lot of times, right when it gets that difficult, just on the other side of that is new life. And that's what Jesus was, that towards the end of his life, things just started going wrong. His friends started betraying him. His friends started denying him. All the people that were with him when he was on these mountaintop experiences had to scattered, wouldn't even associate with him, or they would hide. It was difficult. It was hard. But right at the end of that pain was new life. Jesus died, and 3 days later, his eyes opened, and all of mankind was redeemed when his eyes opened. There was new life, but just before that new life was extreme pain. None of us, I don't know anybody that's had nails driven through their hands and feet and a crown of thorns on their head and 39 lashes on their back and all of that. I don't know many people that have gone through that, but at that point, he was at the precipice of what he was here for in the first place. There is no victorious resurrection without a dramatic death. You can't have one without the other. In order for him to have that glorious day, that Sunday morning, he had to go through Friday first. But what if Jesus would have tapped out? What if the pain was too great and he just said, oh, you know what? I'm out. He was perplexed in the garden before when he was praying, and he was praying like drops of blood as sweat. And he kept coming back to God saying, God, do I have to do this? Can we do it some other way? Like not my will, but yours be done. He was in pain too, like a lot of us are when we're at the end of this season, when it's so difficult. Even Jesus himself. And I love that about him, that he modeled that made it into the Bible, that Jesus struggled. And this was hard. This transition was not easy. It was difficult, but he didn't tap out. He didn't numb the pain. He didn't give up. And because of that, he lived long enough to die and then raise from the dead. And so that's the same with us when we're going through times of transition, when we're going through difficult times, that it's unspeakable, some of the things people have to endure, some of the pain, the seasons we go through, some of the seasons that were victorious and great blessing at one point, but all of a sudden it ends and it's so hard. But right there is not the time to give up. It's not the time to numb the pain. It's not the time to tap out. Sometimes that's the time to push through it, to keep going, even through the difficult, hard, the loss of the job, the loss of the opportunity, the loss of a dream. That time is not time to give up. Hang on, hold on. Just on the other side of that is a resurrection, is new life, is new opportunity, is a new relationship, a new marriage, a new friendship, a new job, a new career. Most of the times, those things come with a dark night attached before it. Before that sunset is a midnight, dark, the darkest part of the day. Midnight usually comes first before the sun starts coming up, before the sun starts peeking through the darkness, and then moment by moment, day comes again, and the sun shines again, and opportunity comes again, relationship comes again. So that's my lesson of Jesus in this stage of his life, is the transition. He went from the glorious man that was healing the sick and raising the dead and feeding thousands of people, all of that stuff, to go from that to a thorn in his head, to nails in his hands and feet and lashes and mockery, all of that season where he's hanging on the cross and said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. He didn't tap out. And on the other end of that was victory, was blessing, was new life, was redemption. So that's my encouragement to me and to you and to anybody, is sometimes transition, most times transition is difficult. Most times when you lose something, when you lose someone or lose something, most of the time that season is difficult and it's hard and it's painful. But my encouragement is that is also usually the time just before the breakthrough, just before the phone rings or that text or that email with the new opportunity, just before that opportunity when you run into a friend, a new person that becomes a new friend, that becomes a new relationship, that becomes a new spouse, that becomes a new job opportunity, that becomes a new business idea. Just before that happens, usually is the darkest part of the night, the most difficult part of your life. Usually on the other side of that is the answer. But will you tap out before? Will you numb the pain before? Will you become something you're not before? where you do something you would never usually do before to numb the pain? I pray that you won't. I pray that you'll hang in there. I pray that you won't give up. And so that's how I'm going to end this message, is just praying for you. So let me just do that right now. Lord, I know that the way this works is there's somebody that's come across this at the exact right time to hear this part of this message. Somebody that is on the verge of doing something they know they shouldn't do. Somebody is on the verge of numbing the pain in a way that they know that they shouldn't, because it's so difficult right now. It's hard. It's unexplainable. It's hard to even put into words what they're feeling, what they're going through, Lord. But I pray, Lord, that they will understand that right now they're in transition. Just like a pregnant woman, just like my wife, in that moment, Lord, where the pain got the greatest, if somebody would have just said the word transition, she would have understood that all this pain was part of the process, and it was all coming down to this. Don't tap out, push through. So that's what I'm saying for somebody that's watching this right now. Transition. Transition. Don't give up. The answer, the breakthrough, is right on the other side of this. Don't tap out, push. In Jesus' name, don't give up. Yeah, that's it. Don't give up. Hang in there. You're closer than you think. It's going to be all right. On the other side of this is the answer. It's breakthrough. Hold on. Amen.
Life is hard. Living can be too. It's so easy to forget all that God can do. Discouragement can come like a thief in the night and steal away your hold on the light. But that is the time to cling with all your might to the strength of Jesus Christ, and remember His love, remember His peace, remember the promises given to you, remember that He has granted to you everything that you need for a life that is true to Him. Seek the mind of Christ in all that you do, and lay aside all that is untrue. And when sin so easily wraps its enticing arms about thee, call on the Lord and cling with all your might to the strength of Jesus Christ, and believe in His love, believe in His grace, believe in His promises given to you. Remember that He has granted to you everything that you need for a life that is true, and add to this faith a virtuous life, the knowledge of God and ceasing from strife. Don't surrender the goal of a sin-cleansed soul, for this is the strength of Christ for you. This is the strength of Christ in you. This is the strength of Christ. The strength of Christ.